I've always been dreaming to do something like this in my life, actually, like taking out a dog or another animal from a farm in the daylight with other people and all together, really storming a place. So this day, dreams have become a reality in April. Then 2 months later, we could have 2,700 of these dogs coming out of this farm. How did it happen? Actually, we have no really precise recipe. We tried our best. But what I can suggest is developing an important theory, because theory is very important. It's where you start analyzing problems, and then the good theory leads you in the right path towards the right strategy. It's very, very important to think before you act. This is very, very important. Action, without action, there is no change, actually. Whatever you can think, if you just, if there is no action, there is no change, and then you need the determination to bring on your actions until you reach the goals that you really want to reach. Grassroots campaigns are really based on militancy. You can see all these demos, very angry, shouting, and run-ins inside offices, and there is a lot of direct action supporting the campaigns usually. And there is this us versus them attitude, and which is also sometimes, as I said before, there is no other way. It's you and the family owning the farm, and so it's you and this family is typically living in a small village. And sometimes, not always, there have been a lot of controversial actions happening because, that some, maybe usually anonymous people were doing some actions just to help the campaign, but which were very, very controversial and created a lot of bad media. And one of the attitudes that was going on usually was in the UK, but also it was in Italy a few years ago, the same more or less, was bad media is still good media. We don't care about what the media says. And this is an attitude that is like our goal is not to have the public with us, but it's just us versus this company, us versus this family, and we have to scare them, we have to force them, whatever, to seize what they're doing and stop their company. And with this attitude, especially in the UK, with a lot of controversial actions happening and a lot of repression coming on later, there was a big loss of public support, and there was a lot of repression, a lot of people were sent to jail.
Claudio has been a part of many campaigns and projects in Italy. In 2002, he co-founded a campaign that forced to close Morini beagle breeders, suppliers of Italian labs since 30 years. In 2010, he co-founded a campaign against Greenhill beagle breeders with similar success. In the next presentation, Claudio will give us an insight into the campaign against the Greenhill beagle breeders in Italy and elaborate on the pros and cons of the strategy used.
I think it is a part of the history of the movement, not only in Italy, but everywhere in the worldwide movement. This picture is a summary of all we want, like the liberation of animals and people really handing out animals from a place of abuse. 70 beagles were liberated from this farm in a daylight raid. I think it's really, really important to know our history, our past as a movement, because we cannot start new campaigns without knowing how the previous campaigns were working, how they were organized, what was going well and what went wrong. Green Hill was a very big breeder of dogs for vivisection labs. They were sending 250 beagles every month to all European labs, and it was one of the biggest in Europe. Previous really inspiring campaigns in the UK where other breeders of animals for the vivisection labs were closed, like Consort Beagles and Hillgrove Cat Farm, and various other farms were closed down by English activists with really radical grassroots campaigns that were going toward the closure of the place, like with really good attitude. With the Morini Farm campaign, it was really similar to the UK campaigns, and it was based on, continuous demos at the farm, continuous demos in front of the house of the workers, continuous demos in front of every company that was connected to this farm until they had no contacts anymore. Their life was continuously really ruined, and this family that was owning the farm, they really had some serious problems going on with their work. But this kind of attitude, this kind of campaign brought a lot of repression for us. When you start a campaign against vivisection, it's just you and your target, and you have to fight them and close them down. We just developed a strategy to close down this place, starting from some luck we had, which was having a lot of good information about this farm. One of these very important informations was a tip that they were going to build 5 new sheds. They were going to expand the company and start having no more 2,500 dogs, but 5,000 dogs. So we started this campaign as a kind of emergency campaign. We have to stop this, and we have to stop the expansion project immediately, as soon as we can. And then we said, we will see what we can do. We organized this big demo with 3,000 people came. There was such an attention for it that we managed to stop the expansion project just the week before the demo. The city council signed immediately a no to this project. So we had won our campaign immediately, which was called Stop Green Hill and Not Close Down, because from the beginning, we were very humble, and we said, we're never going to say we will go on forever to close down this place. We said, okay, let's start really humble. And then we had to evaluate then a strategy to go on. We decided, okay, we have to close down this place now. We have loads of people supporting us. We have a lot of attention. The media also was interested in the story. So we started to evaluate, to create a strategy. And when you do a campaign, you need a strategy. There has been a lot of interesting talks these days here at the conference about strategy and strategic thinking. I think it's very important to have a long-term strategy, long-term goals, and then short-term goals, which are also very, very important. So in a campaign like this, our longer-term goals will be like having of course, closing down the farm, but was not the only goal we had, actually. Since the beginning, we said we have to use this opportunity we have, like with this company, which is so evil for everybody. You know that I think 95% of the people, more than 90% of people love dogs. So we have this opportunity of such an evil place in Italy, so big, so huge, that we can use it to open the eyes of the public and get a message there and get the people understand what's going on inside labs. And so we wanted to use this campaign, not just us versus them, not just to close down the place, which was, of course, a very important aim, but this campaign was used to open a door, and the door was the door of all vivisection labs in Italy and create a struggle against vivisection. And then you have the short-term goals, which are changing during a campaign, of course, because things are changing fast sometimes. Then we did a big demo in May, you already read it, with 1,000 protesters. But the big thing is we always try to get some side effects with this campaign. And side effects means sometimes you are you have a campaign against the company, but you can get other results with other companies. And the biggest one is the local airports made a statement, and they're no longer shipping any animals of any species in their airport, which is very important. We could have 10,000 people marching in Rome because we were going to the capital of Italy asking the ministers to resolve what was going wrong in Green Hill. And then we were going to the regional council. We did this very funny action disrupting the council, which was the first time ever that the council was disrupted by activists. And it was very funny because there was already a lot of press there because there was a Berlusconi scandal just the same day happening. We didn't know it. We found a lot of TVs there. For months and months, we did also some kind of creative communication actions in the center, trying to get media attention. And then we arrived at a moment where the campaign really created massive attention in Italy. And this was an action that actually was quite easy to do, but it was the occupation of the roof of one of the 5 sheds at Green Hill. It lasted 30 hours, and these 5 persons have been on the top of that shed for 30 hours. They could not be removed because they also had some tubes, what they call arm locks. And so we had 200 people below with a demo. And that day, that action went on national TV for 4 days in a row and created such an attention that from that moment on, all over Italy, everybody knew what Green Hill was. And politicians were making, running to be on our side, making statements and trying to be on our side. Even people, some politicians that created a lot of problems with us, they pretended to be the saviors of the Green Hill dogs, and they tried to come to our demos. This was the biggest demo. Just 1 month later, 5,000 people invaded the town, and just to show them, one of the problems that we had with this campaign is when you get so big, you get at a certain moment, you're no more like a campaign group, but there is like a popular movement all over the country that wants to stop this. Like many groups, many campaigns, all the organizations, they want just to be on board of it. They want to do their in a positive way. They want to give their help to the campaign. Sometimes some people just want to put their name in front, in the middle of this popular struggle that is going on. And this is the case of some politicians that really wanted to put their name and didn't want to help the campaign. Like, as a politician, you can stay in your room, write stuff, and help in the parliament. Of course, this is very welcome. But if you give statements and you say, you use this for your publicity, this is not really welcome from us. And these politicians, they try to come to our demos to get the cameras on them, while we always try to get the cameras on the animals and not even on ourselves. We tried always not to put the attention of the media on us as activists, but always on the animals. And I'm very interested in explaining the strategy and the communication strategies we used, because I think some of this is quite also new, and some of this is very interesting. Because when we did this action at the roof of Green Hill, it was not a typical and normal roof occupation, because we tried to evolve it into also a media action. And these people on the roof, they had with them cameras, photo cameras, and also laptops. So they could communicate with the world from above the roof, and they could film themselves giving their, talking about their feelings, being above 500 dogs that were barking on this shed. And this shed is the one where the dogs are going to start in the following days being shipped to vivisection labs. So the images of these people speaking with dogs barking below them, they created such an emotional contact between the people viewing this on TV, viewing this on the internet, and the dogs. And they always try to put the attention not on themselves, but on the animals. And this has always been one of the main points for us, put the attention always on them. And from then on, we organized a lot of actions like demos, and we always, at the period, our enemy number one was no more the region, but the city council, because the region said we could change something, we're waiting, but the city council really had something that they could do immediately, which was remove the license of the company. Because if you have a license given to you by the city council for a company, whatever it is, if you break some of the agreements you made, they can remove the license immediately. And Green Hill was breaking some of the agreements. We found out about it when we did, not really us, but some, let's call them guards or animal welfare guards. They can kind of authorities, they can go and check places. They went inside the farm and found a lot of things that were not okay. Among them, there was also a person of our campaign that was kind of infiltrated in this raid inside Green Hill. And we could find out a lot of things that were later on used against them. And then the city council and especially the mayor of the town were public enemy number one. She was on TV like once a week, interviewed, and people storming in their offices and asking questions, and people doing demos in front of the council. And then some other activists started a hunger strike. This is not activists, it's just normal people or newcomers that just discovered about this campaign and animal rights activism a few months ago and decided to go on hunger strike for a couple weeks in front of the city council in full winter. And then there was a move in that month. As I told you, there was a lot of attention. Everybody in Italy wanted to close down the place. There were some politicians that they did what politicians should do, staying in the parliament and not coming to demos to get attention and publicity. And they worked on approving the European directive in Italy with some changes that were like, one of them was banning the breeding of dog, cats, and primates for vivisection. And this was a very important act because then we can see in the future this was really working 2 years later almost. And so we started this campaign because it was approved at the chamber of the parliament, but then there was the Senate should vote. And these two people here, you can see their faces. We put the faces on our website and social networks of all the people that were trying to stop this. The Senate was delaying everything, delaying the works on this act, and they were trying to wait for the government to fall, which actually happened last year, and so everything was stopped. And we were really fearing at the time that we will never succeed, actually. You know, when you do a campaign, there is always the times when you are positive and you say, okay, we're going to win, we're sure we're going to win, and then there are the moments when you're a bit fearing, like, okay, it's going to be difficult. But at that moment, we were really positive because we knew the campaign was really, really strong. These people were having such a massive pressure against them that for the first time ever, the Italian Senate had to change some telephone numbers because of the telephone calls they were receiving every day. And they had to change some fax numbers, and these people were giving press releases saying they were threatened, they were feeling scared because of all this massive amount of people calling them and putting their names on the internet and trying to call them to do what they should do. On the same time, we had also meetings with other people there in the Senate, in the parliament, and we knew that there were a lot of vivisectors and pharmaceutical companies that were going there in their offices every day to lobby them. We do not know how, but we can imagine, of course, like not to vote anything against vivisection. So it was a big fight, actually, going on. And there was this big public support on our side. So we decided to call, sorry, it was like this. We call this Operation Or Else We Get Angry, which is sounds very aggressive, actually, but it's the name of an Italian comedy, a very funny movie. I think everybody should see it, very funny. And so we used this name, which sounds aggressive, but is also funny, so it gave us also a lot of good things happened under this name. One of these was a easy action like locking at the offices of Green Hill, saying, okay, close down or else we get angry. And also in this action, it was quite good the way we did a very simple action, but we managed to communicate well on it. It happened at 7:30, and at 9 o'clock there was already a video and all the pictures around on the internet, and there was already media attention, and the journalist arrived there, and it was quite just growing up, actually. And then all over Italy, banners against vivisection were appearing on fences, on bridges, on monuments, from houses, really everywhere. And this was showing the popular support. We asked people put banners or take pictures, and we uploaded really hundreds of pictures to show the popular support we had about Green Hill. We wanted everybody to know about this place. And then things were moving on, and we decided it was the right time, actually, for something that was really, really, now we get angry because you do not do what you should be doing there in the parliament, and you're waiting too much. And there was this day, 28th of April, and I think that it's one of the most historic days, at least for us, for Italy, and I think also for Europe, actually. And there was a demo which was actually, it's quite difficult to explain all the situation now. I do not have much time, actually, but it was not organized by us. It was organized by a parallel campaign. One of the problems of getting big, as I said before, you get a lot of people that is doing something to help you, but you get a lot of people that is doing something else to get the attention you created and move it on themselves. So we even had someone organizing a parallel campaign, organizing national marches without calling us, without asking us anything. We had a strategy, we had plans for actions, we had plans for stuff to do, and then you go on the internet the day before after, and you see there is someone else organizing a march in the same town, in the same period. So this is really frustrating. This is really bad for activism. It's a really bad way to, a bad attitude. And it created us lots of problems, not only because it was ruining our strategies when they were organizing stuff in the same period we had actions planned, actually, but also because these people were welcoming the same politicians we were not welcoming, for example, at our demos. They were welcoming them, taking the publicity about, they were looking for, like these attention seekers like politicians often are. So they were changing the cards in the game, and there was a lot of confusion. People, they had the name of the campaign really similar to ours, and people were confused. They didn't know anymore who was running the campaign against Green Hill, which was actually a big problem for us for a few months. So it was their demo. It was nothing special, just 1,000 people, a lot less than the usual demos we organized before there. And we were there, and we decided, okay, it's time. We were really angry, and we decided, okay, it's really time to push people to do whatever happens, and this happened. And 70 dogs were liberated. It was an historic day. 13 arrests were made. And the best thing about this day was the media support. There were people storming a place, people raiding a farm, taking out beagles, 70 dogs, and this is a clearly illegal action. This is direct action, and all the media were supportive. And there were media interviewing people in the streets asking, did you hear about the Green Hill liberation? What do you think? And everybody was supportive of it. We have also been invited on national TV on family-friendly programs, like for housewives or this kind of programs, talking about it. And they were all, showing the images of the liberation. They were all cheering and calling us heroes, which is something we are not, of course. We hate this word. But it's just to show that, we created such a support for our campaign, such a hate for vivisection and animal abusers, that also the direct action then became supported. And I think this is one of the social changes that are really something that we have to aim to. This is like a work organizations are doing, for example, with open rescues, that you say animals are not objects. It's okay to liberate them from a cage. And we are taking all the risks it can take to have it. And we are publicly denouncing ourselves doing it, because this is a civil disobedience movement, and we are going to face charges, we are going to face the society that is considering these animals as objects, and we want all the social norms to change. So this day was a day of civil disobedience. All people without masks and all people of all ages were there storming the place and taking out animals. And I think this was like a popular action, like with the people showing what they wanted, actually. Then you can imagine the attention we had. In just 5 days, we could organize this day of action, Global Day of Action. Many people here took part in it. We really are really thankful about it. In 5 continents, we could have 82 cities joining the Day of Action and 38 cities organizing demos in Italy alone in 5 days of organizing it. So this means really crazy public and popular support for the campaign. And this was showing, you see a picture in Milano, you can see the Dome of Milano. We had 600 people at that demo, and about 500 in Rome, and really thousands of people in the streets everywhere. Everybody was asking to the state, to whoever, you have to close down this place that is called Green Hill. You have to do something against vivisection. And then there was such a big support that even politicians, as we were talking about before, in other interesting workshops before, like there is some kinds of social norms. When you see that everybody's against vivisection, you also tend to be this is called social norms. You have to adapt to the social norms. But it happened so much that even the head of the Italian Senate went there and was speaking out, criticizing vivisection and saying this is an atrocity, we have to stop. Of course, I do not trust him completely that it is in his heart, but it is a strong statement from him, actually, on the media. And then in June, just a few weeks later, we released something that we had in our files for 3 or 4 years, and we waited the right moment to release it. It was a leak of documents and a phone call, an internal phone call inside Green Hill that was proving they were doing illegal euthanasias of puppies because they were not like they should be in their appearance. Actually, they have no health problems. They were just not as they should be in their appearance, and they were killed not by the vet, they were killed by normal workers, which is, of course, completely legal. We could prove it with this phone call, which also created a lot of hysteria. And then we could get 3,000 people again in a march at the farm. As you can see here from this picture, it's impossible to show, like, people. It's difficult to handle these situations because it's not normal activists, or usual activists. It's people that really are there and they've never been in a demo before. They do not even think about. Usually we have the banner and people on the back. These people were running in front of the banner, just saying we have to run before anyone else to go and storm the place and liberate the beagles again. And most of these demos were really, really difficult to handle because we had thousands of people that were not even listening to us. There were a lot of crazy people, actually, at our demos. And they tried, the idea of the people was, we assault the farm again, we liberate the beagles like it's. They saw it happening 1 month before. They said, okay, this is the way demos are usually. But people that are doing demos for years, they know this doesn't happen so often, actually. And this day, the police had made it clear before, like, this time, there is no way we will charge you. So we were trying to behave, actually. And just 1 month later, then, when there was this peak of attention, we were organizing a 10 days camping below Green Hill. That what we wanted to be also a moment for people to meet and know each other, having like workshops and meetings and demos all together. Then arrived a wonderful like news that was like the place was seized by the police, and 1 week later 2,700 dogs were freed and they could get out of the place. This is Vegan. She's the first dog coming out of the farm. She has been given to this guy, Giuliano. He's an activist of our campaign. She's kind of our dog, collective dog now. And she was a pregnant mother with 5 puppies. And so this was one of a really great day for us, and there was a lot of media attention and a lot of emotion for us. And then 1 year later, now it's a bit more than 1 year, Green Hill has fired 15 workers. It's still empty. It's not closed yet. And they lost 1,700,000 euros, and the dogs are finally legally staying with the families, 2,700 dogs. And before speaking about it, I want to speak about just closing this thing I mentioned before, the law on vivisection. I think the most important effect of this campaign was the side effects, which was opening the eyes of the public on vivisection, opening the eyes of the public on animal abuse, and creating a more friendly situation for us to do any kind of animal rights activism in the streets. And after Green Hill, the way forward was like attacking not only the breeders, but showing the people that there is 600 labs in Italy, and they are all working whenever, wherever, and people do not know about it. This is an action we did in this April at Milano University. We entered in the place. 5 people blockaded themselves with locks at their necks, blocking a whole floor, the 4th floor of the building, where there is thousands and thousands of animals. And this action was also planned, as I said before, with kind of communication skill that we developed in the years, because these people inside, they had cameras, video cameras, and also computers, and we could have a streaming connection with them, which we didn't do actually because things went on quite fast. But we had organized a national march that was going in the city center, at least in the city center, and this is what the police thought actually. But before the march, we occupied the place and moved all the people below the building, and so they stayed there for 10 hours supporting, hundreds of people supporting this action, and we got out. Actually, it's incredible, but we got out with 400 animals after 10 hours of occupation of the lab, and with hundreds of pages of documents from this lab. And we are going to release a full fact sheet on this lab and what is going on in this week. And this action really hit the vivisectors where really they fear most, and it created such a big debate, an international debate. Articles against us have been published in American newspapers like Nature and other blogs. Everybody from the pro-research lobbies, they try to attack us as terrorists.
Them think it's over, but we're not done yet. See, many people saw and they will not forget. So don't bother worrying now, don't bother fret. If you love and respect ya, guide and protect ya. Judgment come, love revolution. As with down the wall with new solution. Them think it's over, but we're not done yet. See, many people saw and they will not forget. So don't bother worrying now, don't bother fret. If you love and respect ya, guide and protect ya. Judgment come, love revolution. Judgment come, love revolution. Them think it's over. Them think it's over.
The authorities are never going to stop us. As long as there's animal abuse, there's going to be people out there who aren't willing to tolerate it, who won't stand idly by while animals are tortured or murdered.